Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, ready to ask the, well, maybe not stupid questions, but definitely the ones you're thinking. And with me is our resident expert.
It's good to be back. And honestly, there are no stupid questions when it comes to the CIMA syllabus.
In today's session, we're going to break down project leadership, stakeholder management, and project structures so you can confidently explain them in your CIMA E2 exam.
A really crucial chapter, this one.
It is, but I have to admit, when I was reading through Chapter 11, I had this real disconnect.
Oh, yeah. What was it? The sheer number of matrices.
It's just that project management feels so practical. You're building something, you're getting things done, but then you open the textbook and suddenly you're hit with like Tuckman stages and Mendelow's power interest grid. It feels academic.
I get that. I hear that all the time. It feels like they've taken something really human and tried to stick it in a spreadsheet.
Exactly. But I guess the goal here isn't to run a real project. It's to pass the exam.
That's the key. And you have to see this chapter as the bridge.
A bridge between what?
Between the perfect plan on paper and the messy, chaotic reality of working with actual people.
Yeah.
Think about it. The chapters before this are all about Gantt charts, budgets, critical paths. In that world, everything works perfectly. Nobody argues. The client never changes their mind.
The spreadsheet is a beautiful lie.
It is. Chapter 11 is where that beautiful lie meets human nature. This is the toolkit CIMA gives you to figure out why things are going wrong when people get involved.
Okay, so these models aren't just things to memorize, they're diagnostic tools.
Precisely. The exam will give you a scenario where a project is on fire, people are fighting, the budget's blown. Your job is to use these tools to say, aha, that's a stakeholder problem, or look, that team is stuck in the storming phase.
Right. We're project doctors. I like that. So what's on the agenda for our deep dive today?
Well, first, we'll figure out the who's who in a project, the whole stakeholder hierarchy. Then we'll look at what we, as management accountants, are actually supposed to be doing.
Okay.
After that, it's all about leadership, the skills you need.
Yeah.
And then we get into the really fun bit, team psychology and Tuckman's model.
And finally, the structures. I've heard horror stories about the Matrix.
Oh, we'll get to the matrix problem, don't you worry. Shall we start at the top?
Let's do it. Part 1, stakeholder hierarchy and roles. Now, to make this stick, can we use a running example, something big and messy?
Good call. How about a city building a new metro line? Huge budget, tons of people involved.
Perfect. The metro project. So, first question, who's the boss? My gut says it's the project manager, right? The person in the high-vis jacket.
And that is the first and most common mistake people make. The project manager is in charge of the work, but they aren't the ultimate boss.
Who's?
The project sponsor. Getting the difference between the sponsor and the manager is absolutely fundamental.
Okay, break it down for our metro project. Who's a sponsor?
The sponsor is the person or the committee that provides the money and the authority. They own the business case. So it might be the government's transport minister.
The one who secured the $5 billion budget.
Exactly. They make the big go-no-go decisions. If costs spiral, the project manager can't just find more money. They have to go, cap in hand, to the sponsor. The sponsor decides if the project lives or dies.
Okay, so sponsor provides the resources. What does the project manager do then?
The project manager is responsible for delivering the output. Their entire world revolves around what we call the iron triangle: time, cost, and quality.
So the sponsor says, here's the money, build me a railway. And the manager's job is to make sure the tunnels are dug on schedule and within that budget.
You've got it. The manager handles the day-to-day operational stuff. But it gets a bit trickier. The syllabus also throws in the project owner and the project customer.
And I always thought sponsor and owner were the same thing.
In everyday language, they are. For the CIMA exam, absolutely not. The project owner is the person who has to live with the finished product.
How is that different from the sponsor in our metro example?
Think of it like this. The sponsor might be the Department of Infrastructure. They're just funding the construction. The owner could be the city's transport authority, the people who have to actually run the trains on these tracks for the next 50 years.
Ah, I see. So the sponsor cares about the upfront cost?
Right.
But the owner cares about long-term maintenance and whether the thing actually works properly.
Exactly, and their interests can clash. The sponsor might want to use cheaper concrete, but the owner will be screaming, "No way, that'll cost a fortune to repair in 10 years.
And the customer is just us?
The public.
The commuters, the people who will use the line every day. They're the end users.
So you have all these different people with completely different priorities. This sounds political.
It is intensely political, and managing that is the whole game of stakeholder management.
Which brings us neatly to that famous diagram, Mendelow's matrix.
The power interest grid. If there's one diagram to have tattooed on your brain for the E2 exam, it's this one.
It plots everyone based on their power to affect the project and their interest in it, right? Yep. And the exam will expect you to know the specific strategy for each of the 4 boxes.
Okay, let's walk through it with our Metro project. Top right, high power, high interest.
These are your key players. You have to manage them closely. In our case, that's the sponsor, the transport minister, and probably the city mayor.
So you're in constant contact with them, no surprises?
None. They get weekly briefings. You tell them the bad news before anyone else does. You are basically joined at the hip.
Got it. Now, what about the top left? High power, but low interest.
These are the ones you have to keep satisfied. Think of maybe a powerful environmental regulator. They have the power to shut you down completely.
But they don't really care about your day-to-day progress, as long as you're following the rules.
Precisely. And the mistake here is to over-communicate. You don't send them weekly updates because you'll just annoy them. You just make sure you're compliant so they stay uninterested. Don't wake the sleeping giant.
Right, okay. Bottom right is my favorite. Low power, but high interest.
The strategy here is to keep them informed. Who do you think fits in this box for our Metro project?
Has to be the local residents, doesn't it? The people whose houses are right next to the construction site.
Perfect example. One resident on their own can't stop a multi-billion-dollar project. They have low power, but they have incredibly high interest because their house is shaking 2047.
So why not just ignore them if they have no power?
Because they can find power in numbers. If you ignore them, they form community groups, they go to the media, they lobby politicians.
And suddenly a lot of low-power people become one high-power group.
And they move quadrants on the grid. That's a classic exam scenario. A stakeholder's position isn't static. So you keep them informed, you run town hall meetings, you send out newsletters, you make them feel heard.
And the last box is easy. Low power, low interest.
Minimal effort.
Yeah.
Your supplier for office paper. They don't care, you don't care. Just monitor them and move on.
So this is really about strategic allocation of your time and energy.
It's pure political strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move on to part 2. The role of the CMA in projects. Now again, I have to be the skeptic. Why does an accountant get a special mention in a chapter on leadership?
It's a fair question.
Are they not just there to count the beans and approve invoices?
That is the bean counter myth, and it's a dangerous one for the exam. The official CIMA title for the role is the Guardian of Value.
Guardian of Value. That sounds very grand.
It is, but it's accurate. Picture the chaos on our Metro project. The engineers want to use the most advanced, expensive materials. The sponsor is pushing to finish early, whatever the cost. It's all emotion and pressure.
And the accountant is the person who says, hang on a second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The CMA brings objective data to an emotional fight. That is the key phrase.
So how does that work in practice before any digging starts?
Pre-project, they're all over the feasibility study. They're running the numbers, the NPV, the IRR. They're asking the tough question. Is building this metro line actually a good use of $5 billion?
So they're the ones who might have to tell the mayor his grand vision is a financial disaster waiting to happen.
Which takes real leadership, right? Then, during the project, their role shifts.
To what?
To variance analysis. It's not just about noting that you spent too much on concrete last month. It's about figuring out why.
So was the price of concrete itself higher than we budgeted, or did we just order too much and waste it?
Exactly. A price variance versus a usage variance. One might be out of your control. The other is a management failure. The CMA flags this so the project manager can fix the leak.
And they help with the tough calls, I assume.
That's the decision support part. The main tunnel boring machine breaks down. It's a 2-week wait for a new part, or you can pay $50,000 to fly one in overnight. Everyone's panicking.
And the CMA just does the math.
Does the math. Okay, a 2-week delay will cost us $500,000 in penalties and staff costs. Spending $50,000 to save $500,000 is a no-brainer. They provide the objective data.
They take the panic out of the decision. Got it. Okay, let's talk about the person making that decision. Part 3, project manager skills and leadership.
Right, the person in the hot seat.
The syllabus starts with Henri Fayol, which feels a bit like a history lesson. I mean, this is from the early 1900s.
It is. But his 5 functions of management are still, the bedrock of everything. POCCC.
Planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling.
Yep. Planning, organizing, coordinating, controlling. They all seem pretty modern.
It's the word commanding. that feels dated. It's very top-down, very my way or the highway.
It is, and that's the point. Fail represents the traditional hard skills of management, the structure, the process, the plan.
But the syllabus makes a big deal about contrasting these with soft
And
skills.
that's the whole point of this section.
Yeah.
You can have the best plan in the world, but if you can't communicate, negotiate, or motivate people, the project is doomed.
It's the human element again.
It's always the human element. The source material for E2 often uses a little case study, ABC Ltd, to show this exact point.
Right, the team that couldn't get along.
Exactly. A manager puts a team together, and naturally, they start arguing about the best way to do things.
Which seems normal to me.
It is. It's healthy. But the manager in the case study panics. He sees conflict as a failure. So he steps in and enforces a zero tolerance to disagreement policy.
He just tells them to shut up and get on with it.
He uses commanding.
Yeah.
And what happens? Morale tanks, the real issues never get solved, and the project fails. He completely misunderstood what was actually happening with his team.
Because he didn't understand the psychology of it.
He had no idea about the stages of team development.
Which is the perfect lead-in to part 4, project team management and the famous Mr. Tuckman.
Forming, storming, norming, performing. If Menlo is the #1 model for the exam, Puckman is a very, very close second.
Let's go through the stages. What does forming feel like on our Metro project team?
Forming is the first day of school. Everyone is polite, a bit reserved. The engineers and the planners are meeting for the first time. It's all nice to meet you, and what do?
And they're looking to the leader for direction.
Constantly. They're very dependent. Where are the files? What's my first task? The leader needs to be very directive. Clear instructions are key.
But that politeness doesn't last, does it?
It never does. Then you hit storming.
The gloves come off.
Oh, yeah. The architect says, I want this station to be an icon. The engineer says, that's structurally impossible. And the CMA says, we can't afford either of you.
Oh, chaos.
It feels like it. Conflict, arguments over who's in charge, people forming little cliques. And this is where the ABC Ltd manager went wrong. He tried to crush the storm.
But Tuckman says you have to go through it.
You must. It's how the team works out its differences and figures out the best way forward. The leader's role here is to stop being a director and start being a coach.
A referee.
Sort of.
Yeah.
You facilitate the discussion, you help them argue constructively, you don't take sides, you guide them to a resolution.
You steer the ship through the storm instead of pretending it's not happening.
Perfect way to put it. And if you do that successfully, you get to norming.
So the arguments die down.
They do. The team has established its rules, its norms. They've agreed on a process. People start trusting each other. The language changes from I to we.
And the leader can relax a bit.
They can step back. Their role becomes more supportive. And that lets the team move into the final stage.
Performance.
This is where you want to be. The team is just flowing. They're efficient. They solve their own problems. They don't need to be managed. The leader's job now is to delegate and get obstacles out of their way.
And there's a 5th stage, isn't there? Adjourning.
Yes, when the project ends, the metro line opens, and the team that has been through so much together gets broken up. It could be a bit like mourning, actually. A good leader manages that process too.
So for the exam, if you see a team fighting, the answer isn't the manager needs to be tougher.
No. The answer is the manager needs to recognize the team is in the storming phase and adopt a coaching style to facilitate conflict resolution. You have to name the stage and prescribe the right leadership style. Got it. Okay, let's zoom out from the team to the organization itself. Part 5, project structure.
Right. The org chart. Who reports to whom and why it matters so much.
We've got 3 main types: functional, project-based, and the dreaded matrix.
Let's start with functional. This is your classic old school company structure. Big silos, a finance department, an engineering department, a marketing department.
And everyone in engineering reports to the head of engineering. So how does our Metro project work in that world?
With great difficulty. The project manager has no direct authority. They have to go to the head of engineering and say, please, can I borrow an engineer for this task?
And the head of engineering's priority is his own department, not the project.
Exactly. It's slow, it's bureaucratic, it's not good for big, complex projects.
So the opposite of that is a project-based structure.
Yep. You create a brand new team just for the Metro project. You pull an engineer out of the engineering department, and for the next 3 years, they report only to the project manager.
The pros seem obvious: focus, loyalty, speed. Huge pros. But the cons are significant too. It's very expensive. And what happens to that engineer when the project is over? They're an orphan. They have no department to go back to.
Which leads us to the compromise solution. The one everyone uses and everyone seems to hate. The matrix structure.
The matrix. It tries to be the best of both worlds. The engineer officially stays in the engineering department, reporting to their functional boss, but they're also assigned to the metro project, reporting to the project manager.
They have two bosses?
You have two bosses. And that is the absolute core of the problem. It's called dual reporting.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It often is. Imagine it's Friday afternoon. The project manager needs a critical report for the metro project by 5 o'clock. At the same time, the head of engineering needs a departmental budget forecast by 5 o'clock.
Who does the engineer listen to?
Exactly. They're trapped, pulled in two directions. It causes immense stress and confusion.
So how on earth do you make a matrix structure work?
Communication and negotiation. The project manager and the functional manager have to be constantly talking, agreeing on priorities. Without that, the structure collapses and the employees burn out.
So in an exam scenario, if I see words like conflicting priorities or staff feeling pulled in two directions,
You should immediately be thinking matrix structure conflict. And the solution is better communication and clearer protocols between the two managers.
it really does seem like better communication is the answer to half the questions in this chapter.
It's not a bad guess to start with.
Okay, let's pull it all together then. Part 6, impact on achievement. This is the so what part, right?
This is where we link all this soft stuff back to the hard metrics of project success.
And success is measured by that iron triangle again. Time, cost, and quality.
Always. Every failure in leadership, communication, or structure will eventually impact one of those three things.
Give me some examples. Connect the dots.
Okay. A leadership failure. You failed to manage your keep informed stakeholders, the local residents. They start a protest and block the construction site for a week. What's the impact?
Your time is blown. And you're paying your crew for a week of doing nothing, so your cost goes up.
Perfect. Now, a structural failure. You have a matrix structure with poor communication. Your lead engineer is constantly being pulled away by her functional boss. What's the impact?
She doesn't have enough time for the project, so work gets delayed or rushed. That hits time and quality.
Exactly. One more. A team management failure. You're a commanding leader who suppresses the storming phase. The team never resolves their issues. What happens?
They don't trust each other, they don't collaborate. Someone makes a mistake because information wasn't shared and you have to redo a whole section of tunnel. Massive impact on costs.
You've got it. The soft skills directly drive the hard results. You cannot deliver on time, cost, and quality if you can't manage the people and the politics.
That's a really clear way to put it. Okay, this has been a huge amount of information. Let's try and wrap this up with an exam survival guide.
Let's do a recap. When you get a project management scenario, run through this mental checklist.
First, the people.
The stakeholders.
Yep. Immediately think Mendello. Who has power? Who has interest? Has their position on the grid changed? Is there a problem?
Checkpoint 2.
The money, or rather, the value. Think of the CMA. Are they playing their role as the guardian of value? Are they providing the objective data?
Checkpoint 3. The team itself.
Tuckman. What stage is the team in? Are they arguing? They're probably storming. Is the manager using the right leadership style for that stage? Coaching, not commanding.
And finally, checkpoint 4.
The structure. If it mentions two bosses or conflicting priorities, it's a matrix problem. The answer will be about negotiation and communication between the managers.
I quite like that framework we talked about. People, process, performance. It works really well. People is your stakeholders in your team. Process is the structure and the CMA's role. And performance is how the leader's skills pull it all together to deliver the project.
Do you have one last killer tip for when you're in the exam hall reading the case study?
Yes. Find the friction. The person who wrote the question put a point of friction in there on purpose. Your job is to spot it.
So where is the conflict?
Is the friction between the sponsor and the local community? That's a stakeholder issue. Is it between two members of the project team? That's a Tuckman issue. Is it between employees, two bosses? That's a matrix issue.
Find the friction, apply the model, get the marks.
That's the game.
That is brilliant. I feel like I've got a much clearer map for navigating what felt like a very messy chapter.
It's all about having the right frameworks to make sense of the mess.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's been incredibly helpful.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, I hope that's cleared things up for you too. Remember, these models are your tools. Use them to diagnose the problem. Now go ace that E2 section and we will see you on the next deep dive.
Good luck.